Story number 1, The Silent Stalker. Chris had driven across nearly every state in the US, but something about the vast, empty roads of Nebraska always made him uneasy. Maybe it was the isolation, the endless plains that stretched for miles without another soul in sight. Or maybe it was what happened to him one fateful night, an experience he still struggles to explain. It began like any other late-night haul. Chris was transporting freight from Colorado to Iowa, the highway lit only by his headlights and the occasional glow of a distant farmhouse. Somewhere along Route 34, his truck began to sputter, and the engine warning light flicked on. With a frustrated sigh, he eased onto the shoulder, the engine dying completely. He stepped out into the crisp autumn air, his breath visible in the frigid night. The silence was suffocating, broken only by the faint rustle of dry cornfields nearby. As Chris inspected the engine, he noticed something strange. The moon was hidden behind clouds, and the once serene night had taken on a menacing tone. Then, a faint hum, a car approaching. Headlights pierced the darkness, and Chris sighed in relief, thinking help was on the way. But as the car slowed to a stop behind his truck, an unsettling stillness took over the air. The engine idled, but no one stepped out immediately. A moment passed, then the car door creaked open. The man who emerged was tall, with a baseball cap pulled low and a heavy flannel shirt. His steps were deliberate, too slow, too calculated. "Need some help?" His voice was steady, but something about it was wrong, almost mechanical. Chris hesitated. His instincts screamed at him to get back in the truck, but the isolation of the highway left him no choice. "Yeah, I think it's the battery," he muttered, his eyes scanning the man's figure for any hint of danger. They worked in silence, the stranger's questions growing more personal with each passing moment. "Where are you headed? You married? Got kids?" Chris' unease deepened with each question, the air growing colder as though something unseen was watching them. Finally, the truck sputtered back to life. Chris turned to thank the man, offering a handshake, but the stranger ignored it. He retreated to his sedan without a word. The car's headlights flicked off, and the sedan disappeared into the night. Relieved, Chris climbed back into his truck. But then, 20 minutes later, he noticed something that made his blood run cold, the same sedan, tailing him closely in his rearview mirror. His heart raced as the car mirrored his every turn, its headlights blindingly bright, too close. When he pulled into a small truck stop near Plattsmouth, the sedan parked a few spaces away. Trying to brush off his growing anxiety, Chris went inside for coffee. But to his horror, the man appeared behind him in line, his baseball cap low, his eyes hidden beneath the shadow. "You left something on your truck," the man said, his voice too calm, too intimate. Chris didn't reply. He bolted out the door, locked the truck, and sped off, his hands trembling as he gripped the wheel. But as he merged back onto the highway, his headlights illuminated something that made him freeze. Across the windshield, written in thick, red ink, "We'll meet again." To this day, Chris can't shake the feeling that the man wasn't just passing through. That he knew something that had been waiting for him. Story number 2, The Gas Station Phantom. Emily had always loved road trips. For her, the best part of traveling from her hometown of Asheville, North Carolina, to her parents' house in rural Ohio was the open road, the chance to unwind and listen to her favorite playlists. But one stop on a lonely stretch of West Virginia highway changed the way she felt about road trips forever. It was past midnight when she spotted the glowing sign of an old gas station, its neon letters flickering, casting an eerie glow over the deserted lot. The station looked like something out of another era, with pumps that hadn't been updated since the 80s. Emily pulled in, her fuel gauge dangerously low. She stepped out into the cold night air, her breath visible in the frigid temperature. The parking lot was empty, except for a beat-up pickup parked in the far corner. Inside the station, an elderly attendant sat behind the counter, his eyes fixed blankly ahead. Emily's instincts prickled as she began pumping gas, her unease growing as the sensation of being watched pressed down on her. Turning, she locked eyes with the attendant. He didn't blink. He didn't move. He just stared, unblinking, his gaze unavengingly fixed on her. Traveling alone, his voice broke the silence, gravelly and cold. Emily forced a smile. Just passing through, she muttered, her voice shaking slightly. The man nodded slowly, his gaze lingering too long. "Be careful out there," he said in a voice that sent a chill down her spine. "Not everyone you meet is who they seem." His words stuck with her, gnawing at her as she drove away. 30 minutes later, headlights appeared behind her. At first, she thought it was just another late-night traveler. But then the car sped up, tailgating her, its headlights blinding in the rearview mirror. Panic set in. Emily swerved onto back roads, trying to shake the vehicle, but it followed her every turn, its engine roaring louder, the headlights a constant, suffocating presence. Her chest tightened, each heartbeat more frantic than the last. When she finally reached her parents' farmhouse, she pulled into the driveway, tires screeching. The pickup stopped at the end of the road, its driver sitting motionless. Emily ran inside and locked the doors. Her father, alerted by the commotion, grabbed his rifle and stepped outside. But when he approached the end of the road, the pickup was gone. Vanished. The next morning, Emily found muddy footprints around her car, circling it, over and over again, but leading nowhere. What had they wanted? And why had the gas station attendant warned her? Was he involved in something far darker than a simple roadside warning? Story number 3, the rest stop encounter. Jake loved road trips. As a Florida native, he often drove to visit friends in New York, enjoying the changing landscapes along the way. But his most recent trip left him shaken, and with questions he still can't answer. Somewhere in Virginia, hunger struck. A Wendy's sign at a rest stop promised salvation, but when he arrived, the restaurant was dark, the parking lot eerily empty. Jake parked near the building, hesitating between continuing his drive or taking a quick nap. Suddenly, a knock on his window. Startled, Jake turned to see a tall man in a hoodie standing outside, his face partially obscured by shadows. "Hey, man," the stranger said, his tone oddly upbeat. "My car won't start. Can you help me jump it?" Jake's gut clenched. Something was off. The man's smile was too wide, his posture too relaxed. Yet, not wanting to seem rude, Jake reluctantly got out of the car. The man led him toward a pickup truck parked near the tree line. As they walked, Jake noticed movement in the shadows. 2 more men stepped out. They were too quiet, too still. Alarm bells rang in Jake's mind, and he froze. "You know what?" he said, backing away. "I think I left my jumper cables in the car." But the men didn't speak. They didn't move. They just stood there, watching. Panic surged as Jake sprinted back to his vehicle, locking the doors just as one of them tried the handle. His hands shook as he started the engine and sped off, heart hammering. But it didn't end there. The pickup truck roared to life, its headlights flashing in his rearview mirror, the men screaming obscenities as they tailgated him. They stayed on his bumper for miles, their vehicle swerving dangerously close. Finally, Jake spotted a state trooper parked on the shoulder. He slammed on the brakes and honked frantically. The pickup veered off into the darkness, disappearing. When the trooper investigated the rest stop, they found the truck abandoned, its interior filled with ski masks, duct tape, and ominous tools. Jake will never know if the men were just trying to scare him, or if something far darker awaited him that night. And what if he hadn't driven away when he did? Life is full of unpredictable moments, but these stories remind us that danger can sometimes lurk in the most ordinary places, on lonely highways, quiet gas stations, or seemingly harmless rest stops. The people in these tales made split-second decisions that may have saved their lives, but the questions left unanswered are what truly haunt us. What would you do if you were in their shoes? Would you have helped the stranded stranger or trusted your instincts to walk away? Could you have spotted the warning signs in time, or would the terror catch you off guard? As you travel through your own life, take a moment to reflect on these stories. They're not just tales of fear, they're cautionary lessons about staying vigilant, trusting your instincts, and understanding that sometimes, things aren't what they seem. If these stories chilled you, let me know in the comments which one you found the most unsettling. And as always, stay safe out there, because the next terrifying encounter could happen to anyone, even you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss the next collection of chilling tales. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.